Hello everyone and welcome back to JB's Total Gaming, where today I am really excited to be bringing you coverage of this game, Duelyst. So Duelyst is a collectible card game, and I've looked at quite a few on the channel since I started covering video games, but this is one I am really excited about. I haven't been this excited about a collectible card game since Hearthstone. So let's go ahead and jump into a game. We're going to jump into a practice game. Usually the AI isn't that difficult, but it'll give me a chance to kind of talk as we go through. So this is the first deck I've really tried making, a Magmar deck. There are different factions, and the way the deck building works, you have your faction and then neutral cards that you can add to it. And we're going to go ahead against Lionar Kingdoms just to give you a chance to look at how the game plays. So this game has a little subtle difference to some other games. Instead of starting with 1 mana, you start with either 2 or 3, depending on if you're going first or second. There are these orbs we'll see out in the middle of the field, and right now we're kind of deciding if we want to, let's see here, we've got 2 different 4 costs. I like having the combo of this, though, on turn 1. I don't know. We'll go ahead with this. And there's another one of those. I kind of wish we had like a grow creature, but we'll maybe see what that is later. So right now our opponent, every turn you can replace a card. So these are your cards down here. So we might try that turn 1. We've got 2 of these, so maybe we will go ahead and replace one of our guys. So he got out a guy that when he's close to his hero, he gets +2 attacks. He's normally 2/3, and then we have that Zeal ability here. So just to give you an example, we're going to replace this card and see what we get. Okay, so another one of these guys, which doesn't necessarily help us. So let's go ahead and move forward, and I want to show you one of the mechanisms of the game are these mana springs. So there are 3 on the board. The second player is able to actually get to 1 on the first turn, because if you move over one of these or summon a creature onto it, then you'll get 1 additional mana that turn. So for example, we can put out this creature, and then we can actually buff it with this. Now this creature has rush, so we can go ahead and try to attack the enemy general. Now this creature will probably go ahead and kill it, but you know what, we're just going to go ahead and do that. So we'll get in and get 5 damage on the enemy general. So this game has a lot of unique things. So, you know, slightly different with the starting mana, but then you get 1 additional each turn like a lot of games. The ability to replace cards is kind of cool. The idea that your hero is actually on the board and you know, has their own attack and defense, can move around, is pretty sweet. They also have these things called Bloodborne spells. Now they activate on turn 3, and then you can use them every other turn after that until I believe you get to 9 mana crystals, and then you can use them every turn. So our opponent can give +2 to a nearby minion, and we can just give our attack +1, and that's a permanent attack. There are things in the game called artifacts that basically last 3 hits, and it's not necessarily you doing a hit, but it's you taking a hit. But since damage is done simultaneously, it's usually done at the same time that you lose durability on these artifacts, and that's one of the ways to buff your attack or do different things. So they cast trying to figure out, okay, so they took our guy out. They are spreading out, and they got that mana crystal. So interesting little move there, cool little spell. So the artifacts are kind of cool, the Bloodborne abilities are kind of cool. But the big thing, obviously, that makes this game different than other games is this whole ability, so let's go ahead and replace this guy real quick, of having this board out here. So if you're a board gamer, and my channel covers board games and video games, then you may be familiar with Mage Wars. So this is a game that has quite a lot of similarities to Mage Wars, without a doubt. So let's see here. Summoning this guy on there isn't really going to give us any benefit, but doesn't let our opponent get the mana spring their next turn, so we'll just go ahead and do that. So moving around the board, you know, similar, not to like an in-depth tactics game, but a tactical minis game, board games that have this sort of combat, maybe are certain like tactics games on the DS or things like that. You know, there's a tactical element, or even a little bit like chess games that have combats that are abstract. This game definitely has a whole new dimension to it, in the fact that not only do you have minions that, you know, you're choosing to attack, but the actual positioning really matters. Now, one of the things we'll look at later, and actually great, this actually came up. These provoke creatures, they're a bit like Taunt in Hearthstone, except it's not that we can't attack the enemy hero. Let's say we were positioned back here. We could attack the enemy hero. But if you are adjacent to a provoke minion, then you have to kill it before you can move away or attack something else. So our dragon, you know, can easily do that. However, we have something else. This guy will go ahead and teleport a minion to a random space. So why don't we do that? So let's go ahead and summon this guy here, and then we will teleport this guy out of the way, hopefully. Good. Plenty far away that we can go ahead and hit face on the enemy here. And then also we can cast this guy and use it to buff, let's say, our dragon. So our dragon's going to do 7 damage here, and then we're going to do 2 damage to the enemy minion. So the tactics of where you're positioning things and all of that, again, really makes for an interesting thing. I do like also having hero abilities. I like games that have that. That's one thing. I've been playing the Elder Scrolls Legends game as well. I kind of miss having that, so they're going to go ahead and kill that guy off. But you know, a lot of these things you're going to see in other card games. You know, having creatures and spells and all that, getting 1 more mana every turn, that's becoming kind of standard fare, sure. However, the little touches, the being able to replace cards and things like that once per turn, I think is pretty cool. But really, this board is what makes this game pretty different. Now, we can actually, this creature is flying, so it can go anywhere we want. So let's say even there was a provoked creature right here, we could still like fly somewhere else and attack, but we're just going to go ahead and fly in here and kill off the enemy general, and then talk a little bit more about other aspects of the game. Usually the AI is pretty easy, so let's talk about what's available in the game, and then how the game works and the pricing and things like that, and then a little bit about the factions. So the way the game works is very similar to a lot of other games like Hearthstone. You can practice against the AI, you can do a ladder, then you get a reward at the end of the season. As far as I know, there isn't casual play against other players. There are these solo challenges. We've done, I believe, the first 2 tiers of them, and doing these both helps teach you the mechanisms within the game, but also gives you a small reward and in-game gold whenever you complete them, which is kind of cool. There's also a daily challenge. These daily challenges are kind of like 1-turn puzzles that you can try to do in order to get a little bonus for the day. I am terrible at them. So there is the Gauntlet, which is basically a draft. It works very similar to Hearthstone. You play till 3 wins, or excuse me, 12 wins or 3 losses. So all that's pretty similar. I do like, there is kind of a robust single player, though, these little basically puzzles that you can do in order to learn the mechanisms of the game and whatnot. So as far as pricing is concerned, there are these kind of weird crates, and then there's crates and keys and stuff like that, and you use them in order to get cosmetic items. I'm not a real big fan of that, but they are cosmetic items. Things like emotes, player icons, there's card back, general skins, whatever. So, and different bundles you can get. I think kind of the pricing on these cosmetic items is kind of silly, but they're cosmetic, so I don't really care. The spirit orbs, however, are the packs in the game, and they're very similar to other games. You get 5 cards, at least 1 rare. There does seem to be a higher amount of legendaries and epics than in some other games, which is kind of cool. But, you know, 100 in-game gold or prices, depending on, you know, how many you buy, they go down a little bit. So all of this is very similar to other games as far as the pricing of the game. Now, as far as, let's go ahead, let's see here. This is kind of nice that it does keep a lot of different stats. It shows you like your last 10 games, and you can look at them again. There are nice little touches in there, and you know, there are, like other games, these daily quests. So there's a daily challenge, play with certain factions. So all that's very similar to other card games. So let's look real quick though at the different factions. So we played against Lionar here, and you know, they're kind of taunt heavy. They have a lot of healing and things like that. And one of the things, this is the hero you start with. You can unlock another hero. I think it's a card that you actually get. So each of these factions actually has 2 different heroes you play as. And then the way you play that faction and the way you build your deck around that hero can actually change quite a bit depending on the hero that you're playing. And another neat thing is factions have unique abilities to that faction. For example, the Songhai here, they're kind of the rogues. They have a lot of spells, and they have this backstab ability. So they can reposition people, and then if they get like behind you, then they can do bonus damage. So kind of cool things like that. And each faction has their own kind of special ability. And when you make a deck, you make it out of your faction's cards and neutral cards. So the faction abilities are kind of neat. I'm not really familiar with how all the factions play. The Abyssian can make a lot of little minions and then sacrifice them in order to get certain bonuses fortresses and things like that. We played as the Magmar, and here are some of the neutral cards. So overall, this is a game I have been really enjoying so far. The whole idea of having that board and whatnot, it kind of reminds me of a lot of board games like Mage Wars. So having those things combined in this game, I think works really well. I do want to say, I watched some videos on this before. This game's been out for a little while, and I didn't check the game out because watching the videos, it didn't come across to me. I didn't really think the game would be all that fun, but then once I started playing it, I've been really enjoying it. So I do suggest, I'll try to remember to put a link in the description, go ahead and check this game out. If you're a board gamer or a card gamer, or like me, both, then this game might really hit that special fusion, and it might be something you really enjoy, because I know I really enjoy it. And I'm planning on doing more videos on this game in the future, getting more into depth into certain things, maybe looking at the arena or stuff like that. But thanks a lot for watching, and we will talk to you guys again soon.